Okay, Mark, thanks for agreeing to come on and have a conversation with us about your campaign for city council. You've been at this for a while. This is number what campaign for you now?
Oh, well, campaign. This is number 5 cycle for council.
Okay, good. Yeah. So let's just start with your platform.
Sure.
Right. What are 3 things that you're going around knocking doors? What are 3 things that you're telling voters that you stand for and that you want to represent them with?
Yeah, and it's the same stuff I've started with, frankly, 16 years ago. At the core, it's the large scale is building a better Manassas, and that's obviously the branding, and that encompasses a lot of things. Number 1 focus for me has been attracting, retaining high quality jobs, because I view part of my job is doing what I can to help the citizens, frankly, grow wealth, and that's part of that through quality employment, which can obviously extend to our kids as they're coming through the school system and they have opportunities here at home rather than having to move away. But that we are able to attract, these high quality jobs that frankly pay a lot of taxes, so that the residents don't have to bear all that burden. And at the same time, you're increasing, the values in the community. So someone owns their house and they decide to retire or sell or whatever, they're making a huge, appreciation on their investment and creating generational wealth. One of the little things I actually track on an annual basis is average household income in the city and the value of the average house in the city, and compare it to other jurisdictions and things, and measure how we're doing.
How long have you lived in Manassas?
We've lived here for 34 years.
Okay. The city has seen a lot of change
Yep.
in that time. I guess if you could compare and contrast the way the city looked when you came on council versus how it looks today, and some of the changes, and I guess some of the things, the improvements that have come through the policies that the council has set.
Sure. Well, when you think back to 1990, it was a radically different community. Let's be honest. The demographic makeup was totally different. The employment makeup was totally different. There was not the opportunities that we have now. I mean, you had what was the predecessor to Micron? I can't remember which one was here at the time. It was after IBM, or I guess IBM was still here, probably maybe at that time. So employment was limited, and we were very much a bedroom community from that perspective. And Old Town, to use that an example, was, I use the analogy, you could have shot a cannon down Center Street, not hitting anyone or anything, because there was just nothing going on. And it was boarded up, empty buildings, underused buildings. The Manassas Shopping Center was sort of like it is today, and just not the opportunities, and frankly, a community going in the wrong direction. If you think back, if you look at the history, going back 50 years or more, Manassas, when it's, was at one point the most affluent part of Prince William County, where all the doctors lived and like that. And that changed. And that went away. And Manassas became the poorer part of the Prince William area. And, that's not a recipe for success as a community, or frankly as a government.
What policies do you think changed that trajectory and turned it around?
I think there's some of it, frankly, was happenstance. You can't take credit for everything that's gone on. And the growth of Northern Virginia as a whole, and the economic engine that is Northern Virginia, has obviously played a huge role in this. Having things that existed before, like the lake, the airport, the railroads, those had an impact. I think one of the things we've done, though, that I've been pushing on, that the council's adopted, obviously we have had a focus on, like, developing Old Town, Battle Street and the different things, and creating a little bit more sense of place, identification as a community. We've invested heavily in neighborhoods, so things like paving streets and underground utilities, and we take what's in the comprehensive plan about maintaining the integrity of neighborhoods. We take that really seriously. I mean, we work very, very hard to spend a lot of money on that. We have had a lot of success attracting high quality jobs. Micro. I mean, again, the number one economic factor in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we competed for that. And we competed against Singapore and Taiwan. I mean, we got the federal government didn't help us. The state helped a little bit. But that was the city of Manassas that was out there pitching and making that happen.
Yeah, and you're talking about the largest economic public-private partnership in modern Virginia history, that Micron expansion that was announced in 2018. Do you know where we are with that and how that's progressing?
Well, so where we're at is they have actually come back and done an expansion or extension to that development, where it's going to add another, and I forget the number of jobs. I want to say 500 jobs or something like that, and continue expansion of the facility here. Micron is bringing more and more work from overseas into Manassas. They have the option with us for the GMBL baseball fields for their expansion, which I think runs out in October. And what I've been told is they will be exercising that option and expanding. And that's just a piece. So when you add that to what's happening, say, at Rapid Flight, and what's happening at Electra, and the commercial service at the airport, and high purity systems, and we've been really fortunate. And this is councils, this is staff, this is public, this is everyone working together. Our partners in the Commonwealth or George Mason University or wherever it is. But we've been inordinately successful in attracting and retaining these businesses. And so Electra, I like to talk about. And this is where I get engaged. This is what Mark Wolfe does. So I'm talking to Electra, and they're like, we built this first electric powered short takeoff vehicle in the world. It's amazing technology. It's been built right here at the Manassas Airport. And they're like, we have $9 billion of back orders already. And yeah, we're thinking about a production facility in South Carolina. And I'm like, no. We want that here at Manassas Regional Airport, because it's 1,500 jobs averaging $100,000 a job. I mean, this is bringing in quality jobs that our kids at Osborne or Nova or wherever we can be able to leverage. So I have spent a lot of time just, behind the scenes working, trying to push, say, hey, let's make this happen. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a very much behind the scenes thing, and it involves staff, involves the rest of the council. Obviously, Electra, we're competing against other jurisdictions. And I don't know what's going to happen, but that's what I do. And frankly, that's what engages me and makes this fun.
So what you're saying is, and you may be breaking news here, but we have not reported, but what you're saying is that Electra is considering a manufacturing facility to place at the regional airport that would create 1,500 jobs?
They are considering a production facility, and I have talked to them. The city has talked to them about having that here in Manassas. They have not made a decision. There's a lot of pieces to puzzles like this, because you're talking, again, literally hundreds of millions of dollars of investment here.
When do you think they might make a decision?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea.
And you did name that there were other cities in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I know they've looked at South Carolina. I'm sure there's some other places they're looking at. And again, I'm a homer. My job is to make the 10 square miles of the city of Manassas the best place to live we can.
You're talking about the airport, and I want to stay on that topic because last year, we were first to report that the airport was going to receive commercial flights. And every single time I write about that, I always get a Facebook commenter that says, it'll never happen. And it's frustrating to me because I've sat through these meetings and I've listened to everyone speak and I've looked at the plans and I'll be honest with you, I'm just as excited as anyone else about the prospect of having this type of development at what is the state's largest regional municipal airport.
Yeah.
But we did learn last night that the flights will be delayed at least a year as improvements continue to happen at the airport. So do walk us through where we are and what policies you think the council could set to make sure this happens.
Well, let me go backwards. I don't think there's any policies that we need to set. I think we've done all that we need to do. We have an agreement in place, and staff is continuing to work with Avports and the other partners and the FAA and everyone else to make sure this happens. It's an insane amount of work. Just the airport operations manual that we have to get approved by FAA is probably like 5 inches thick or something like that. It's insane. What has happened, and I think Juan said it very well last night. The folks at Avports, this is a multi-$100 million deal. They know there's stuff out there and the stuff's going to happen, and they're used to that. And so what we uncovered was that when you look at Manassas Airport, there's a creek that runs under the runway. And then we have bridges for it and stuff. Well, it turns out those bridges are coming near their usable life. And frankly, they aren't strong enough to support modern aircraft and frankly, what will come in the future. So we got to spend some money to fix that. And that's engineering and that's construction. So that's added. I don't know if it's going to be a year, probably. I'm hoping 9 months, but still, it's going to add some time.
And will the city end up paying for this construction of this project, or will Avports come in, or are we there yet? Do we know? On additional cost?
My understanding is what's going to happen on that piece is Avports will probably, and this isn't certain, but I think Avports will end up picking up a portion. The rest will be recovered, will be fronted by the airport fund, so not tax dollars.
Because the airport makes its money on fuel sales and hangar rentals, tie downs, things like that.
And then the airport will recoup its money from landing fees and passenger fees once commercial service starts. Will this guarantee to happen? Well, there's not a guarantee. Do I think it will happen? Absolutely. The folks at Avports have done this a lot of other places. They're really smart money with a lot of people with a lot of money behind them. They have invested tons and tons of money already in this project. We have not had any red flags, any roadblocks. We're going through the process with the FAA and the environmental impacts analysis and all the myriad of pieces, just fire equipment and fire staffing and just all the stuff that it takes to have a commercial airport. But once we have it, it will create, again, a host of new jobs. It will create untold opportunities for us. And frankly, it will enhance the perception, I don't want to say the value of Manassas, just by simply being able to have, you'd be able to go to the Manassas airport and get in a flight and go to Tampa rather than going to Dulles and stuff. Like, oh my gosh, how wonderful is that going to be?
Do we have a clearer idea of where these planes might fly to and from?
We don't yet. I'll say this, nothing official. I'm willing to bet that it includes probably a lot of Florida destinations and Northeast destinations and maybe Dallas. I mean, it's not going to be, Air France isn't going to land here. But, there's no reason why this shouldn't be really, really, really successful. And it will create other opportunities that councils and the community down the road will enjoy.
So as many excited people like you and I about this project, and I'll admit, I'll show my bias. I'm excited about it.
Oh yeah.
There are other people on the other side of the fence who say, well, listen, I don't want increased noise. I don't want the increased pollution. I didn't move by a regional or, a airport. It was a small airport at the time I moved here. What are you saying to them who say, listen, this is not what I bought into?
Yeah. First off, I get it. I understand. And I don't claim to be the expert on this. I have looked at the preliminary environmental impact, information and the noise studies. I think the noise piece will be, and I pray this, I'm right on this. I think the noise piece will be much better than people anticipate. A couple of reasons for that. Number one is jet engines keep getting quieter and quieter and quieter, and that's just as technology advances. The second piece, though, is the way that the airport is laid out as opposed to any surrounding residential. So, if you think about it, you come into the airport from sort of the northwest, you're over business, commercial, George Mason area. There's really not a lot of residential there. And on the other side is the more green community, and again, it's there are some houses and some residential there. It's obviously much more rural than, say, the city. So the noise lines, as you look at the sides of the airport, really don't increase your travel that far. So I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. Is there going to be people that are upset about that? Yes, there are. And I would term it progress, but there is a cost of that, and I get that.
Mm-hmm.
The pollution, I think, is essentially the same answer. And again, the number of flights we're talking about at full anticipated load, what would one say last night? We're looking at maybe a 10 or 15% increase to the number of total operations at the airport. So is it more? Yeah, it's incrementally more over a long period of time. But again, I don't think it's going to have an outsized impact on the community.
I want to switch topics here. You mentioned George Mason, and we have a story on our website today that there is some concern at the Science and Technology campus that the land is being eaten up by data centers around there, and they want to ensure that they work with the county and the city and municipal partners to ensure that if they want to expand their educational endeavors, that they'll have land to do so. But as you look at the map, these data centers are dotting the landscape faster than you can blink.
Yep.
Right now, as far as the city is concerned, the city has three. One being built at Godwin. One, if it's not online already, is the old Glengarry brick plant right there on. It is Godwin, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Glengarry. You got one on Godwin. You got two on Dean Drive.
Yep. Okay. And then you have another one coming to the airport on the land of this. So, and we're starting to see not only concerns from George Mason about space, but we're also starting to hear concerns about the usage, electricity usage of these things.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to see, some fears about straining on the grid, and of course, electrical bills going up, because if the infrastructure has to be built to support these things, then those costs are always passed along to the ratepayers. So as far as you're concerned on the city council, there's not a lot of room, there's not a lot of open space to build these data centers in Manassas as compared to the county. However, there may be some space to redevelop some existing industrial areas in Manassas. So what's your take? And are more data centers in Manassas a good thing?
Well, let's talk about what Manassas has done versus the county, and then where you started with George Mason. Obviously, I'm very familiar with the George Mason campus, and I don't want to cast any rocks at what our friends in the county have done. We have had a significantly different approach to data centers in the city. I would like to think we do it right. Data centers to me they're a critical part of infrastructure. Now you can sit there and say I don't want it here or I don't want it there. But data centers need to exist. That's our digital age. So what we've done in the city is been very clear. Data centers can go in industrial areas away from residential neighborhoods. And that's what we've done. So you've got the, like I said, the 2 large ones on Dean Drive that are under construction. You've got the one on Godwin, and then the one out at the airport. It's actually something I've been working on. So there is, this was news to me, but I'm our representative of the Northern Virginia Regional Commission. I actually learned something from that. So when you hear this, you go, oh yeah, of course. Data centers create a lot of heat, right? In the winter, there is now an ability to take that heat and pump it over significant distances to warm other buildings for free, essentially. So one of the things that I'm proposed to staff is when AWS builds their data center out at the airport, that our new terminal building is heated by the excess heat from that data center. So it becomes a green building. That's trying to do things the smart way. And so the data center on Godwin, staff has done a really, really good job of going to the data center community and working with them and pushing them and cajoling them, both on the aesthetics of the buildings, but stuff like, where are you putting the backup emergency generators? Make sure they're on this side away from the community. Put, what's the wind, doing things like make sure you put up enough trees to screen them so that it looks as aesthetically pleasing as we can. So again, I think we've done that right. I don't want data, you see the pictures in Loud of a data center up against a residential community. That's horrific. I know all the people in Loud, and I don't know how that happened. That's not what we're doing in Manassas at all. I was actually at a meeting and someone put up a slide and it was talking about a data center up against a school. And they said Manassas. Well, it turned out it was greater Manassas in Prince William County. And I was quick to point out, saying, no, not us. So, what I will say is data centers, like I said, they're infrastructure. They are a part of your tech, portfolio. As you have data centers and you see the work that's going on right now down on Oaksville Drive with putting in the new conduit, your connectivity grows. Well, that creates other job opportunities. That improves the quality of life for everyone because the connectivity is the fiber quality of your fiber is just that much better. And obviously they kick off a huge amount of taxes. And that's, again, that's an opportunity to relieve tax burden on residents, but also continue to make investments in the city. The other thing you talk about is electricity. And the city is really, really fortunate in this, in that, as you know, we're our own utility. So as a part of that, our contract with through the Virginia Municipal Electric Association requires, not an option, it's a flat requirement. They have to supply, Dominion or whoever is that BEMA contracts with, must supply our needs. Period. End of story. There's no, we are the number one priority. So am I worried about that we're going to have brownouts or shortage? No. I mean, the data centers are smart people. Dominion's smart people. They're working on this. We're also contractually protected. And the same thing applies, therefore, on the cost side.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I think that, and if the energy is there to supply you, then that's one thing. I know that the Youngkin administration has talked about finding, small nuclear power
Mhm.
plants, sites for those things. And you serve on. You said you serve on Northern Virginia Regional Commission.
Yep.
And so these types of boards are think tanks to,
Yep.
to set policy on a regional level, and you look at things like the environment. Do you think there'll be a push to find new sources of energy? Would you support that? And what does that look like for you?
Well, I will look at anything, and if they, if there was a viable proposal for a small scale nuclear, I'd be more than happy to look at it and be a part of the discussion. I actually read an interesting piece yesterday, and I can't vouch that it's true, but it actually was talking about the fact, according to this article, that there is a huge amount of untapped renewable, whether it's solar or wind or other renewables, that has difficulty connecting to the grid because our grid is frankly so outdated. And so the article was talking about the fact that it was in Ohio. They have an old coal plant, and they're actually keep not tearing down the coal plant or the connection, because the coal plant is the connection to the grid. So they're taking a huge solar farm and putting it right next to the coal plant, so they can essentially use the plug that's already built into the grid system. And this is all way above me and city council pay grade. But this is all stuff that's going out there in the energy field. And again, I think I go out to Texas and visit my family, and there's wind farms like you couldn't believe. So I think I'm confident we will have the electricity.
Let me switch gears and talk about the city and its position where it purchases property, it sells property. Over the past 10 years, Manassas has done its fair share of buying property and selling property. Right? You sold, you sold some. But what the public really sees is the property the city buys.
Yeah.
And you sold the plot at the airport for the data center that we were talking about. You
Yep.
sold that plot. But the ones that you buy get not only press coverage from us, because new public buildings go on them, such as the new police station and fire station and what have you. And so with that news coverage comes the perception that the city is on a land purchasing spree and is expanding its portfolio of properties to build new things with taxpayer money. So talk about some of the investments the city has made especially over the past 10 years. And do you think that trend will continue, where the city will continue to buy up property and build new things or repurpose things such as the Marceller Middle School that looks now to be a community center?
Yeah. So first off, the city has been incredibly fortunate, again, through people long before me who made some what at the time had to be probably politically very difficult decisions. Buying the Wakeman track out by the airport is probably a great example. And I'm not sure how that was done way back in the day. But all the purchases we're making now are made from one-time money. So it's not a part, and I know it's the average citizen doesn't understand this, and we had someone talk last night about this, but it doesn't come from the general fund. So it's one-time money that we have squirreled away from, whether it's government grants or sale of other property. We have a pot of money so that we can make investments in the community. And that's the way I look at all these. These are investments in the community. Some of them are, to your point, for a public purpose. So purchasing the land for the police station so that we could build, a police station for the next 50, 75 years and get, and frankly, and I'll give you a great example. What we were told is, as our police department is incredibly good and incredibly highly recognized through the CLIA process. We would not be able to maintain the CLIA accreditation because the old building didn't simply have the space to adequately, properly store documents and evidence. It's the building was built 50 years ago, and Manassas was less than half the size of what it is today. So we knew we had to address that, because that's the number one priority. It's public safety. So we've done those things. What I will also say though is all the things we've done have actually, when you think about it, been a part of the comprehensive plan. Document and vision 20, 25 years ago gets refreshed every 5 years. So things like the purchase of the Old Town Inn, that was been a part of the comp plan forever. The purchase and redevelopment of Manassas Shopping Center has been a part of the comp plan forever. So we've been fortunate and frankly willing to make the investments when these opportunities came up. So Old Town Inn, full credit to the mayor. She made that happen. She took that upon herself. She made it happen. And without her efforts, it would not have happened. I'm going to take some of the credit for Manassas Shopping Center. Just that happened because, again, relationships I have with people who made me aware it's for sale. No one else in the city knew it was for sale. And if we hadn't acted, someone else might come in, and then you don't know what they put. So the advantage of the city purchasing and being a part of the redevelopment. So like the shopping center, we're not going to continue doing the shopping center forever. We're probably not going to put a public building there. But it gives us the ability to control what goes there. So it gives the citizens a voice. And the voices, whether it's through the charrettes or the comprehensive plan, elections, they get a say. And so we get to guide that. The other thing that the city has done is we essentially grease the skids on the private sector a little bit. Would Manassas Shopping Center get redeveloped at some point? Yeah, probably. It might have been another 20 years. Who knows? But this way we're getting it done now. But we will engage and involve the private sector, just like we're going to do at Old Town Inn. And
what should go there, by the way?
Oh gosh, I can tell you what's not going to go there. It's not going to be a data center.
That's good.
And it's not going to be a botanical garden. And I actually do know what's going to go there, but I can't tell you. So you'll have to find out. Stay tuned.
Okay.
Stay tuned. We're really, really close to something on that. So Marsteller is a little of a one-off. So Marsteller is a case where we've had discussions with the Baptist Church for years about that property. And we got close. They backed away. It came around again. And because, again, we have been blessed. We have been absolutely blessed as a community. And I'll go back to Larry Hughes and then Pat Pate as financial managers, non-Pariel. They, we had the money to be able to pull the trigger and do that. Again, one-time money, not tax revenue, but we were able to do it. And I haven't heard a person sit there talking about, Marsteller's a bad idea. I mean, what are you getting? You're getting ball fields, you're going to get a community center, and a desperately needed new fire station. Wow. How good, and repurpose, 80% of the old building. How good is that? To me, that's government doing what it should do. That's government making a difference in lives and in the community.
I want to switch gears and talk about the city manager that you mentioned, the past city manager, Pat Pate, and then before him, Larry Hughes. We've had an interim city manager and Doug Keene over the past year, and the lights are still on. The government's still working. So when we talk about who will, but he's made it clear that he does not want the job full time.
Correct.
So when it comes time to hire a new one, how is that process going? And for your 1/7 of the council, what are you looking for?
Well, 1/6. Michelle doesn't get a vote.
Oh, there you go, 1/6. So what are you looking for in the next city manager?
Well, let me go back to the process. So Mr. Pate left, God bless. He got a chance to go home and make more money and triple dip his retirement and
He returned to North Carolina. He's now at Winston-Salem, I believe, in that area.
It was a win-win scenario for him. We advertised the position. I will be honest, in my opinion, in retrospect, we probably dragged the process out a little bit more than we should have, just because of where the calendar was and different things. But as we went through the process, we had 50 or 60 people apply, something like that. So we had a large pool, but we didn't find the fit. And fit is, you hire people. It's a hard thing necessarily to verbalize. For myself, I'm looking at someone. You're never going to find someone who dots every I and crosses every T, because you're never going to find someone from a city that's got an airport and a large police force and a utility system and blah blah blah, all the things that Manassas has. I'm looking for someone that has a strong financial background, because that's the core. That's where everything starts. And then I'm looking for someone that will come in and again, a vision for what Manassas can be and what Manassas can evolve into. One of the things I tell people is communities have to continue to grow and evolve. You compete for dollars, you compete for residents, you compete for businesses. And if you don't continue competing, you're going to fall behind. And you might not get the next Micron or that airport or that airline or something, and you miss opportunities for your people. So that's what I'm looking for.
And when should we expect a replacement for Pat Pate?
We are the second round of placements has gone out. I believe we are scheduled to do interviews in November, just after the election. Someone thought that was a good idea. So, I would hope we at least have a person selected in early 25. Now the reality is, when they're going to be here for the job? They got to give notice and all the move and all the stuff. So you're probably not having someone in place until spring, which is in the middle of budget, which actually might not be the worst thing in the world, because I still got Diane Bergeron and Doug Keene and everyone here to take the new person through the Manassas way of doing things, and they may come in with their own way that's better, and that's great. But we've been absolutely blessed in Doug Keene, because this is a man who lives and bleeds Manassas, and he is doing double work, and we owe him a debt of gratitude that's almost impossible to repay.
And Doug's been the police chief for years. I can't recall how many years Doug was the police chief before he accepted this role as city manager. And he's been in for years.
12 or 14, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and with the department before that.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's done a great job. But to what you said earlier, we haven't missed a beat. We keep on going, and we're able to do that because Doug is great, but the next level down, the Matt Arcieri's, the Diane Bergerons, the Steve Burks, the Juan Rivera's, the Tariq's over at Utilities, they're really quality people, and most of them have been here. We've been very blessed to be able to attract people and keep them. So we've got senior people with a lot of experience that have shouldered the load. It's career opportunities for them, and they've done a fabulous job for the citizens.
I want to switch gears now and talk about the schools, and we'll obviously preface the conversation like we always do, is that the school board's in charge of the schools, but you guys are the funding mechanism. You guys give them a significant chunk of change every year. And when we look, and you've been critical of the schools, especially during the dean rebuild discussions, and you had said many times, we gave you money, you didn't spend it, now you're back here asking for money, but now we're through that part. We have a new dean elementary school replacement. well in the works.
Yep.
But we are still, so two of the schools in the city, Osborne High, and it's the city's only high school, Osborne, and Metz Intermediate School, they're operating on they're not fully accredited. They're operating on sort of a caveat accreditation that goes back to the COVID era of 2020. And the SOL scores are not where they were. Some have improved. And I think we're seeing good ESOL students performing well, and that's a good thing. But attendance is lacking, performance is lacking, and not all schools in the city are accredited. So being the funding source that the school board comes to every year, are you willing to have a discussion about things that need to improve before the schools get any more money? Because let's face it, they come and ask for more money every year.
Sure. Well, let me start by saying where you start is exactly right. We don't run the schools. And, I realize it's an election cycle and people try to have issues, but all the candidates need to realize if you're running for city council, then you're not running the schools. You're not in charge of schools. And if you want to do that, run for school board. God bless the people who run for school board. School board's a hell of a lot harder job than what I have. That's really, really tough. I view my job with regard to schools as sort of three pieces. Number one, like you said, is the funding piece. And as you've seen in many meetings, I'm the guy that knows the numbers, knows the budgets, and I have no problem calling out BS when I see it. And I've done that very publicly many times, and I will continue to do that. But what I'll also tell you is I think it's an absolute truth. Because I get people say, well, you should withhold their funding, you should do this, you should do that. Spending more money is not necessarily a guarantee of improved performance. Less funding will almost guarantee less performance. Because what's going to happen with less funding is the people that make a difference, your high quality teachers, are going to bail on you. And it becomes a race for the exits. Do we have challenges in our schools? Can it be a challenging population? Yay, verily. Absolutely. My kids my kids both went through the Manassas City Public Schools all the way through. And I do believe, I know, you can get a quality education, absolute great education in Manassas City. You got to want it. You got to work for it. It doesn't get given to you. Can we do more on the SL scores? To be very honest, let's look at it. The population that we have in our city schools, as opposed to the rest of the city, tends to be less affluent. And frankly, then you have ESOL, of a bunch of kids that don't speak English as their first language. That's a heck of a long. You're behind the gun at the get-go there. I try to take it out of the Manassas context, and I go back to when I moved here. Stonewall Jackson High School, what was Stonewall Jackson High School, was ranked as one of the 100 best schools in the country, like Time Magazine or something like that. Well, it wouldn't be that today. Their scores are essentially what the Manassas scores are. Is that because the teachers and the administration are less talented or skilled than they were back then, or they work less hard? I don't think so. I know some of those people, just like I know the people in the city schools. They're dedicated people. They do their absolute best. Are they dealing with a bunch of kids that have challenges on the aggregate? Yeah, they are. They are. And again, can we do more, better on the scores? I'm going to leave that to the schools. I'm not in charge of the schools. So again, my role is funding. If I'm asked to give quiet advice, and to be a public cheerleader, because sitting there throwing rocks from another elected official does no good. or anyone or anything, because it denigrates the people that are working at the schools and it tears down our community. And that's just not what I'm about.
Finally, I want to wrap this up and give you an opportunity to just lay it out why voters should vote for you, and if there's anything else that you want our audience to know about you.
Well, again, I'm running for re-election simply because, again, I've done this for 16 years, and I get up in the morning and I'm still fired up about making this a better community. And I get people come to me and say I make a difference. I actually, one of the real touching things was I had a person during the primary, shall we say, was not necessarily a Mark Wolfe supporter in the past. And she came up and she said, "You got to win. We really need you because you're the guy that knows the budget and stuff better than anyone else." I'd like to think I'm the guy on the council that gets stuff done. Not that the others don't, but I have no problem ruffling feathers and being a hard case when it's required. But the mission is building a better community. And, my wife has dedicated her life to that through the ballet. I've done my part on the council, and I still enjoy it. And I think I still make a positive difference for the community. I appreciate people's votes.
Mark Wolfe, thanks for coming on and talking with us today, and good luck to you.
Appreciate it.